The movie begins with a 7-year-old Darby showing off her exceptional cheerleading skills during a football game, much to the pride of her mother, an iconic cheerleader in her own day. One day, Darby and her parents go to the beach for a picnic on a sunny day perfect for outdoor activities. Things take a tragic turn when Darby and her mom go swimming and are swept away by a sudden wave, drowning them. Darby's father and bystanders quickly jump into the water and bring back their lifeless bodies. Miraculously, Darby is revived after CPR, but her mother tragically perishes. During her mother's funeral, Darby realizes she has the ability to see and communicate with the dead. At the graveyard, she sees spirits roaming around, and they notice her. Initially scared, Darby soon realizes that these spirits are not ghosts but rather deos, souls with unfinished business from their previous lives. As a teenager, 16-year-old Darby continues to use her ability to help spirits transition to the afterlife by assisting them with their unfinished business. Every weekend, she acts as a secret messenger for these souls, fulfilling their final wishes so they can move on peacefully. Darby finds fulfillment in this work, viewing it as a meaningful purpose rather than a curse. Despite her unique ability, Darby's unconventional side job and her social isolation have caused her to become distant from others. She is a loner at school and dislikes attending classes, preferring the company of the dead to the living. Her father encourages her to be more social and make friends, but Darby is not interested in forming connections with the living. Darby often observes and judges her peers, including Capricorn Capri Donahue, a popular cheerleader who is dating a handsome classmate named James. Darby notices Capri's infatuation with James ever since she first auditioned for the cheerleading squad. Darby's only real friend at school is Gary, the former janitor who is a deo waiting for his wife Linda to pass away so they can move on to the afterlife together. In a biology class, the teacher assigns students seats alphabetically by last name, resulting in Darby being seated next to James, whom she had a crush on in 6th grade. This pairing angers the mean girl, Capri, who demands that Darby vacate her seat. Unfazed by Capri's bullying, Darby stands up for herself, prompting the teacher to intervene and instruct Capri to return to her seat, embarrassing her in the process. Capri retaliates by calling Darby a freak before storming off. James, who turns out to be kind-hearted, apologizes to Darby on behalf of Capri for the confrontation. Later, in the cafeteria, a transfer student attempts to strike up a conversation with Darby. Mistaking him for another deo, Darby sternly reminds him of her working hours. It's only when she accidentally bumps into him that Darby realizes he is a living human, not a spirit. Darby apologizes to Alex for her earlier response and explains her reluctance to hang out. The school's principal then introduces Alex and requests Darby to assist him with his studies. Darby agrees but declines Alex's invitation to hang out later that evening, emphasizing her unavailability on weekends. Later that day, after a physical education class, Darby discovers her clothes missing from her locker. Suspecting Capri and her mean girls, Darby confronts them directly. Capri initially feigns ignorance while styling her hair, but when Darby threatens to report the bullying to the principal, Capri lunges at her. However, Capri slips and falls into a pool of water, accidentally electrocuting herself with a plugged-in straightener. That night, Capri visits Darby's house and comes to terms with her death, realizing that she needs to move on to the afterlife. Capri reveals to Darby that Gary, another deo, informed her about Darby's abilities. Capri also discovers that she can physically manipulate things with her mind. Despite Capri's persistence, Darby remains focused on planning her 17th birthday party before assisting Capri in moving on to the afterlife. The following day at school, Capri visits her friends, who have organized a memorial for her. However, Capri becomes upset when she sees the unflattering photo they chose for the memorial. Using her newfound ability, Capri crushes the photo into the ground. Meanwhile, Darby meets with Gary as usual to play chess. Gary introduces her to a middle-aged man named Mel, who recently passed away. After observing Darby and Gary play chess, Mel requests Darby's help in moving on to the afterlife. Darby agrees to assist him. Later, during recess, Alex approaches Darby and asks about hanging out. Once again, Darby dismisses him. She then encounters Capri, who insists that she won't move on to the afterlife until she ensures that her planned sweet 17th birthday party will proceed smoothly in her absence. As Darby continues to resist helping Capri transition to the afterlife, Capri becomes increasingly forceful. She follows Darby to her biology class and threatens to use her newfound abilities to manipulate the real world. In a disturbing turn, Capri uses her powers to hurl a dead frog at one of their classmates. Darby apologizes for the incident and retreats to the restroom. However, Capri continues to stalk her, coercing Darby into putting her head in the toilet. Back at home, Darby finds herself compelled to obey Capri's commands. Capri reveals her plan for Darby to ingratiate herself with her classmates Taylor and Bree, convincing them to organize a birthday party for Capri. To make this happen, Darby must join the cheerleading team. As the days pass, Darby succeeds in integrating into Capri's social circle. She proposes the idea of celebrating Capri's birthday and raising awareness about electrocution to Taylor and Bree. Initially skeptical, they dismiss the idea as foolish. Darby continues to navigate her new life under Capri's influence. She gains popularity through her exceptional cheerleading skills and social media presence. Despite her newfound success, Darby faces challenges when her obligations interfere with her personal life. She misses a date with Alex and repeatedly declines to help Mel, a friend of Gary's, move on to the afterlife. Capri initially feels jealous of Darby's growing influence over their friends, but Gary and Mel reassure her. Meanwhile, Darby spends time with James, sharing childhood memories and discovering James had a crush on her when they were younger. Surprised by this revelation, Darby shifts the conversation to a tree house, avoiding the topic of romance. The scene then shifts to the two teenagers spending quality time together at the treehouse. James asks if he can go to school with Darby, and she gladly agrees. The next day, a rumor about Darby dating James circulates around the school. Things escalate when James holds Darby's hand in front of everyone. Capri, who is always lurking around, overhears James expressing that he enjoyed spending time with Darby, which makes her jealous. The following day, an anxious James visits Darby and takes her out for a drive. He reveals that he feels like Capri may be trying to communicate with him from the afterlife. However, Darby suggests that he ignore his instincts and be more present in reality. Days later, Darby attends Capri's much-awaited birthday party. Despite Capri's warnings, Darby discovers James communicating with his dead girlfriend through a Ouija board. Capri disrupts the party with her antics and threatens Darby to show her true abilities to everyone. Darby opens up about her powers, admitting her previous behavior was a facade. She faces ridicule at school, but unexpectedly, Capri visits Darby to make amends. She realizes her selfishness and doesn't want to leave with a bitter relationship. Capri locates Darby's mother, who has been observing her daughter from a distance. Darby and Capri reconcile, and Capri transitions to the afterlife. Darby reconciles with the cheerleading squad, maintains her friendship with James, and apologizes to Gary for not helping Mel move on. Gary reveals Alex's ability to see ghosts, similar to Darby's experiences. Darby and Alex decide to date and start an afterlife business venture together. Meanwhile, a bird, possibly Capri, observes them from a distance, signifying a new chapter for Darby and her newfound relationships.